And a lot of the young people may not have been through the same experiences that a lot of our people have gone through back in our communities and so on. So we've got to make sure that we're continually reinforcing to these kids as to what's happening in those communities. Fantastic, you want to get a job, go and get a job. But don't forget the roots and the things that are continually happening in our communities. Look at the stuff that's happening at the moment. The new name for these blokes that are coming on the TV, the Warren Mundines and those guys, I just now call them corporate blacks. They're corporate blacks because they'll bow down to wherever the dollar takes them. And whatever the dollar wants to do, they'll come in on their white horse and they'll tell us, I can save these poor black fellas, put some resources to me in and I'll come into that community and I can help them out. They've tried for 40 years to do that. They can't help. The only people who can help ourselves is ourselves. No one else can do that for us. The biggest challenge we face is that governments will go away from this and they'll come into your communities and they'll come in with their wallets and with their hand out and they say, this is what I'm going to do for your community. It's nothing different to what they've done in the past. All the governments have done is divide and conquer. When I go back to what our brothers fought for back in 72, we had nothing. We had no health services, no housing services, no legal aid services, no educational services. We had nothing. So we had something big to fight for. But really think that has anything really changed from then to where we are today? What do you really have? You might have an AMS sitting in your community, but is it really controlled by us? The funds still come from up here at the big White House. We look at the cuts to legal aid. Our people are struggling now to get someone to even go to attend the court with them. You know, and those people are generally there as court advisors and not necessarily qualified to put up a good argument. As Lyle Mo said yesterday, all the courts are asking them to plead guilty before you even get in the door. That's not a solution. There is a theory on insanity, and I'm pretty sure that it come from Einstein, but don't quote me that it is from Einstein, that if you're constantly doing something and there is no change, then you're basically practicing insanity. This government is doing something, they're pumping resources into something, there is no change, there is no improvement. This government is practicing insanity. Nothing has improved. And we need to make sure that we're continually letting our kids know that nothing has improved. You look at what's happening around us globally at the moment, and we know that countries live on the dollar. 2008, the global financial crisis. When the economy fails, it cripples a country. We look at what's happening today in Greece. What's happening in Spain? What's happening in England? In Spain, 1 in 4 people are unemployed. When the economy fails, you cripple a country. People become desperate. People they steal to survive. They steal off their brothers to survive. This country has crippled us economically for 200 years. 200 years we've been crippled. We've been drip-fed dollars into our communities thinking that we've made it, thinking that we've done, our community's surviving because the AMS is doing its job. I also have to condemn the State Land Council. The biggest resource New South Wales has. The biggest resource it has. And we have no voice. Where is its voice?
Same as Western Australia.
Where are those elected leaders in those positions? Where are they? Okay. Those people, if they're standing up saying that they're elected and they represent us, then why aren't they here today to talk about what it is they're proposing to do? Think of those people in your communities that say that they're elected and they're elected by you and represent you. Then where are they? Are they too scared to be here because they don't want to be tarred as being radical blacks?
They're too scared. Yeah, be scared. Guilty.
Because they need to be here. And when this is called again and we have to come back here again, if they're not here, then you need to make decisions in your communities to move those people on.
Yes.
Because they need to understand what's happening here. As you're talking to those young kids, please be aware that the government and people play mind games with them. They're scared to lose their jobs. They're scared of a bad image or a bad bit of publicity there. And we need to assist them in looking at how they get through that, how they get over that, how they get past that. Because that's what the Australian newspapers and the Australian media are doing. They take idiots, corporate blacks, they allow them to speak for long periods of time and give us snippets.
They're yes people. Yes.
They are the yes people.
Yes, boss. No, boss.
The reality of what we need to be doing now is we need to be fighting for our economic independence. We need to be fighting for our political independence. And we need to be coming together strong as Aboriginal people from all the nations across this land. And we need to be making that stance. As we move on, I'd like to say, and I've been down here several times now at rallies here, and I really do have to thank this mob over here for feeding us and doing what it is they do. And I have to say that not all white Australians feel the same as these idiots up here. Keep in mind that you people have been here for 3 days. 3 days. You are voters within your community. You're constituents of this place. But not one of these so-called leaders within your community, these white leaders up here at Parliament House, have stepped foot into this place to address their constituents. How can these people say that they represent me and you when they can't come and address us?
Gillard was just here the other day. She could have come here.
Yeah.
We talk about the Australian flag being burnt. Now I'm going to say I don't feel overly joyed about that.
Invasion.
But what connection? What connection do we have to the Australian flag?
Nothing.
In our communities,
Good massacre.
the suffering in our communities, what connection do we have as Aboriginal people
Disposition.
to the Australian flag? This is the flag that is meant to govern us, that is meant to provide for us, that is meant to assist our communities in moving forward. That is meant to provide leadership and those people to come and address you. They can't show you that respect. How do they expect us to have a connection?
Locked us up on reserves and missions.
Our kids are having a connection to the Aboriginal flag because Aboriginal people are fighting for them, for that flag, and speaking for them in regards to that flag. So I have no or ill feeling in regards to what happened yesterday. At all. And you shouldn't. And our kids shouldn't. And I've got 2 of my young girls that have been with me for the last couple of days. And they've posted some of this stuff up on Facebook.
Good.
A lot of our kids out there are brainwashed in regards to what's happened today. But we need to remind these parents of these kids. They only have a job today because of what took place in 72. The education job or the university job or the health service job or the legal service job or the land council job that you have today was because of the sacrifice that those people made.
Yeah.
So don't become complacent. And these little things don't start here. I attend NAIDOC rallies every year. We have people who are too embarrassed to come and march in their own communities and in their own towns. If you can't stand up in your own community, in your own town, what hope have you got of coming here and standing up and representing your people? So this change needs to happen. It needs to happen in a big way. We need to restore faith in those young people and give them the confidence to say that you can speak up and you can stand up for yourself. And that no one can judge you on your views and your beliefs. So I trust that the experience I've given my girls of being here with me for the 3 days, that they'll take that away and they'll know that who they are as Aboriginal people They'll know what it means to be an Aboriginal person, but they'll still know the atrocity that is being committed in our communities today. Just this year alone. This year. Not the past 40 years, this year alone. If you went to the registrar for deaths, births and marriages, you would get the true statistics of just how many Aboriginal people have died this year alone. In my community, we've attended 4 funerals this year alone. Lilimo, you were indicating that you've attended funerals in your community just this year alone.
Never ending in Western Australia too. Funerals.
This can't continue to happen. I know that I may be sitting here, preaching to the converted, but you have to take the message out. And white stream media isn't going to take that message out for you. You have to be talking to your community, to your people. You have to be delivering the message to our people. Because if you're not, then you're also putting the blinkers on in regards to what's happening. The reality is, change will come. Change will come. But we need to fight for that change. We need to be clear on what we want that change to be. If change doesn't come, then we are all sane, because we're sitting as the little mice on the wheel going around and round. We're doing the same thing with no result. So change must come. These people up here are insane. They continue to be insane. Whilst ever they're pumping the money and not getting the results, they are practicing insanity.
Genocide.
I must say, in regards to where we are today, look, it's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege to be here. It is wonderful to see that so many of our people are passionate about the fight. I got to see young Tassie girl down here, and I'm watching her on TV all the time, and the fights that she's here now with a bub. She will be in Western Australia later on, or up in Queensland somewhere, or somewhere else. That's passion, commitment, and dedication. I know that not everyone can do that, but there are things that you can do. There are things that you can do in your community. If it's challenging the Racist Council, then you're challenging. It might mean you've got to put your name out there, and your name might be mud for a little bit. Right? Or forever, for that case. But it means it's got to be done. Because if you're not doing it, then who else is doing it? And that's where the fight starts. The fight doesn't start here, the fight starts here. And the fight starts with you. And if you're not taking the fight out there to your people, and you're taking it to your communities, and you're not making people accountable, and I'm just not talking about making white fellas accountable, I'm talking about making black fellas accountable as well. In their organisations, you make them accountable. If they're not doing what it is they're required to do, you make them accountable. They might try and intimidate you, they might try and ridicule you, but you make them accountable. The failure of this mob up here, and it's an ongoing failure and it'll continue to be a failure. And don't be blinded by native title. I tell you not to be blinded by native title. Native title might give you the right to practice cultural practices, but it doesn't give you economic independence. It might give you the right to negotiate with a mining company and put some royalties in your community, but those royalties aren't controlled by your community, they're controlled by the government. Just a quick story, the Macklin government took $80 million out of the Northern Land Council in the territory to fund the intervention. This is so-called black money, this is blackfellas' money under a royalty scheme through native title. Jenny Macklin took $80 million out of that fund to pay for the Northern Territory intervention. So don't get blinded by native title thinking that it's giving you some wealth or some control over what it is you do, because it isn't. True control, true wealth is economic independence, controlled by you, for you, providing services and delivering services to your community. I put it out to you all, continue the battle, continue the struggle that we have. We will win. We've not been defeated in 200 years. We will win. Thank you.